Greetings, friends and foes. In this video, I'll be painting undead, brutal looking skin in a few very easy steps. No fine highlighting or glazing, and no airbrush will be needed. Thank you for tuning in. Let's begin. I wanted to keep basting relatively simple here, so I added some AK Dark Earth texture paste, and I threw on some fine grained sand before the texture paste dries, and it gives it somewhat of a realistic and in-scale texture. When the texture paste is fully dried, I went in with some gravel fixer from AK, and I let it sit for about 2 hours to completely dry before priming. I primed it in White Scar from Citadel, and for the first base layer, I used AK Burnt Red, 2 thin layers on all the skin areas to get a good coverage. For the first highlight, I mixed in some Rockhearth flesh to the burnt red mix. I aimed for a 1-to-1 mix here, and I just gently went over all of the raised areas. And make sure to take your time with this, there's no need to rush it, and make sure you don't get it in the crevices and so on. I used everyone's favorite acrylic flesh wash, Citadel's Caribou Crimson. At least my favorite. Then go back to the previous mix and gently overbrush the details. And what's so great about the bestial minis is that they are so incredibly detailed, so they are great for this type of painting. I then went in with some pure Rockhearth flesh and did the same thing, only being just a bit more careful, just catching the most raised areas. And then, once again, the same thing, but even more careful with some pure deepkin flesh. And for the bony bits, such as the tail, claws and teeth, I used Screaming Skull, also from Citadel. I based out the fur on his back using a 1-to-1 mix of Abaddon Black and Rhinox Hide. I added in some Mournfang Brown to the mix for the first highlight. And for the final highlight, pure Mournfang Brown. We're going to keep it extremely simple for the base here. So I painted the rock that he's kind of running on or besides, and the ground in Abaddon Black. I dry brushed the ground in Rhinox Hide, And for the rock, I did the same using Stormborn fur, and then a light dry brush with Dawnstone. And that's it. I'm gonna let it do the pigment do the heavy lifting here. And for the tail and the skull on the base, I use a staining method I like to call it. I use Cygor brown contrast, and I quickly before it dries, I come in with water to dilute it. When fully dry, I came back with a makeup sponge, and I used the same bone colors before, Screaming Skull. For the claws and teeth, I just came in with some Seraphim Sepia, also from Citadel. Now, if you want to get it done quickly for the table, you could just pigment the base and leave it here. But I'm gonna kick it up a notch. So for the first enamel pass, Villain Inks Goon's Crime, for the bone bits and fur. Mixed 1-to-1 with spirits, of course. For the flesh, I use Villain Inks Carrion Crimson. Just a brush full of spirits, almost neat. I then went in with a hairdryer on medium heat for about 40 or 30 seconds, somewhere in between. When fully dry, I went in with a Q-tip damp with spirits, and I start tapping and dabbing on all of the raised areas and details. For the second flash wash, I used Capot Mortum, also from Villain Inks. I applied it mostly in the mouth, paws, and elbows and such. And for the final skin highlight, I used Uptailing Buff, and this is a fantastic old paint for any skin really. Just a tiny bead is enough. Simply apply the paint and then use a dry and clean brush to feather it out, for a slightly translucent highlight. I dusted the base using factory dirt from Ammomig. For a final detail, I made some saliva using UV resin to make. It became a little bit too thick, but it is what it is. Now, if you made it this far, I would like to thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. And as always, feel free to message me on my Instagram, it's linked on my page, or you can comment below. And thank you to Zatcaskagoon from the Grimdark Compendium for allowing me to use his own produced music. I bid thee farewell.